why do people generally look at CNN as as even somewhat, I don't know, middle ground? They don't look at the big three that way. Most people know, okay, I'm getting the left. MSNBC, well, nobody watches. I mean, they have no viewers at all. Period. I don't think their families watch them. Okay, but and Fox News, everybody just looks at it as the right, which of course it does skew heavily right with its opinion shows. So why is CNN in any way, shape, or form seen as being in the middle? Can someone explain this?
Yes, 3 words. James Earl Jones.
Okay, explain.
If you have
voiceover, it's the power of that voiceover.
Yes.
It's that voice.
This is CNN.
The most trusted name in news. It's that guy. You trust that guy.
Honestly, though, CNN began, they first came out around the Gulf War. They've been around maybe 25, 26 years, something like that. But they really took off during the Gulf War, and there was a lot of coverage there that you weren't getting from the main networks. And that made the impression on a lot of people at that time that CNN was more in-depth. And then you could do headline news where you could get everything in 25 minutes or so that was going on in the world. They were doing things differently. They revolutionized what cable news should be, and then they turned into what they are. And, then it was Fox's turn to do that, to change it up, to become something different. And then they, launched these other auxiliary, CNBC, MSNBC. But, no, honestly, I think there's a lot of carryover from the 90s and the early 2000s on CNN's part, when they used to have a better news department.
Oh, absolutely. You always remember your first, and CNN was the first 24-hour news network, and the Gulf War was going on, and for people in my generation, that was the first big war. I mean, we had Cold War, and then we had the end of the Cold War, and it was peacetime, and it was all awesome, and then, oh my God, we're actually bombing stuff again. War is happening, and it's happening live, and I can actually come home at the end of the day and sit down on my couch and watch it really happen live, no matter what time it is, and I can sit here for hours and watch the war, and it was fascinating, and that was CNN, and that's what CNN means to us. And we remember Wolf Blitzer reporting from Baghdad, and it was absolutely revolutionary in so many ways, because it was just sort of a time in our lives that was full of import for many of us, and CNN was there. And we trusted it because we didn't know any different. We didn't have, the only other thing we really watched on cable TV was MTV, because that was where we saw music videos, because, MTV did music videos then. That was fun. But we still have that, I still have that fond feeling and affection for CNN, and even though I don't watch it anymore, and I haven't watched it in more than a decade, I still want to believe that it's that.
What's MTV?
Yeah, I don't know. I hid it on my DVR. I hid it from the channel lineup, so I don't even have to scroll past it.
Never seen it.
JD, that first of all, that's cruel, and secondly, this is why I always say, and I think we all always say, the subtle left is by far the most effective. It is so easy to show somebody, to win somebody on a point or an issue, and show them the difference between the left and the right, and bring out the stuff that they didn't see. It is so easy to beat up on the big three, NBC, CBS, ABC. It's so easy. It is hard beating up on CNN. Even though they're completely biased, they shade things terribly. They shade things and they virtually won't show things that embarrass their side until they absolutely have to, while dealing with the depth. And yet, I got to be honest, it's a real struggle convincing people that they are biased. It's really a struggle exposing them.
That's the point, though, I think, too, is that what conservatives learned about media bias was that there were multiple kinds of them, and one was omission, and another one was slant. And so we had to, we had all the proof with the slant that we could ever need, because you would see they would show one part of a story and not another. They would get an unequal pairing on interview shows or things like that, or they would only cover one aspect of a story. But the wholesale ignoring of stories is a harder bias to prove and harder to show people. There were plenty of people who knew the truth behind this story that were in the news organization and said nothing. So if they try to pawn this off on, oh, it was just Brian Williams and his bad judgment, the best thing to do is to come back with, well, how many people were with him? How many of them knew? And we actually need to keep asking that question.